Welcome, brave soul. Dare you gaze into the abyss? Tonight we uncover the chilling tale of a mirror that reflects more than just your image. What if your reflection wasn't yours at all? Watch closely, but beware. Some things can never be unseen. Enter, if you have the courage, and face the terror lurking within the shadows beyond.
I've always been fascinated by old things, the kind of objects that seem to carry their own stories, even if you don't know what they are. So when I stumbled upon this antique shop on the outskirts of town, I couldn't help but go inside. It was there, tucked away in a dark corner, that I found the mirror. It was enormous, at least 6 feet tall, with a frame of intricately carved wood, so worn and darkened by age that the details were almost hard to make out. There was something compelling about it, though, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. The shopkeeper, an old man with a strange glint in his eye, told me it was from an estate sale. "Unique piece," he said, almost as if warning me. But I wasn't thinking about warnings. I was too intrigued. I bought it on the spot. That evening, as I brought the mirror into my house and set it up in the living room, I couldn't shake a strange feeling. The glass didn't just reflect the room, it seemed deeper somehow, like there was something behind it. I dismissed it as my imagination and sat down to watch TV, but I kept catching myself glancing at the mirror. Every time I did, I swore I saw the light in the room shift, just a little. As the night wore on, the feeling grew stronger. At one point when I passed by the mirror, I thought I saw something moving in the reflection, just a flicker of motion out of the corner of my eye. But when I looked closer, there was nothing. By the time I went to bed, the unease had settled in my gut. I told myself it was just because the mirror was new, unfamiliar. But as I lay in bed, the house creaking in the quiet of the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something, was watching me from the other room. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, I thought I heard a sound. A soft, almost imperceptible whisper. I shot up, heart pounding. I listened for what felt like forever, but the house was silent. Still, the feeling lingered. The next morning, the feeling had almost faded. Daylight has a way of making things seem less threatening. I got up, went through my morning routine, and got ready for work. The mirror looked perfectly normal in the bright morning light. As I walked past it, though, something strange happened. I paused just for a moment. I could have sworn my reflection didn't move quite in sync with me. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but enough to make me stop in my tracks. I stared into the mirror for a moment longer than necessary, my reflection staring back at me. Everything seemed fine, until I saw my eyes. They were darker, like the light didn't catch them the way it should have, hollow almost. I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe I was still groggy from sleep. I shook it off and went about my day, but the image stayed with me. Even as I drove to work, I couldn't stop thinking about those dark, hollow eyes staring back at me. The rest of the day passed uneventfully, but when I got home, I felt that same sense of unease creeping back. I sat on the couch, trying to relax, but my eyes kept drifting to the mirror. The light in the room seemed dimmer when I looked at it. Eventually, I couldn't resist. I stood up and walked toward the mirror, my heart pounding in my chest. As I got closer, my reflection came into view, but something was wrong. My face was there, but it wasn't mine. The smile, too wide, too sharp, spread across my reflection's face, even though I wasn't smiling at all. I stumbled back, my heart racing, and blinked. The smile vanished. My reflection was normal again, perfectly in sync with me, but I couldn't shake the dread that had settled over me. Something was very wrong with that mirror. I wanted to get rid of it, to drag it out to the curb or smash it to pieces, but I didn't. I couldn't. I don't know why, but something about the mirror held me in place. I sat back down, trying to calm my nerves, but I knew things were only going to get worse. Over the next few days, things only escalated. Every time I looked into the mirror, something seemed off. The shadows in the room would shift, or I'd catch a glimpse of movement that wasn't there. I started avoiding it, trying not to look at it for too long, but the mirror had a way of drawing me in. No matter how much I told myself to ignore it, I couldn't help but glance at it whenever I passed by. And every time I saw something different, something wrong. One evening, I decided to face it. I stood directly in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection, determined to prove to myself that it was all in my head. But as I stared, something happened. My reflection stepped forward, closer to the glass, even though I hadn't moved. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. My reflection was moving on its own. Slowly it reached out toward the glass, its hand pressing against the surface, and for a moment, I thought I felt the coldness of its touch through the glass itself. My heart raced as I stumbled back, but the reflection didn't mimic me. It stayed where it was. I wanted to run, to get out of the house, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the mirror. My reflection smiled again, that same wide, unnatural grin that sent chills down my spine. And then it started to walk away, into the darkness that seemed to exist behind the glass. I watched, paralyzed, as the reflection disappeared into the blackness. The mirror now showed nothing but an empty room. I stood there, my mind racing, trying to make sense of what I'd just seen. Had I imagined it? Was I losing my mind? But I knew deep down that I hadn't. Something was living in that mirror. Something that wasn't me. And whatever it was getting stronger. After that night, I stopped looking into the mirror altogether. I couldn't bear to see what might be lurking in its depths. But even when I wasn't looking, I could feel its presence, a constant pressure in the room, like it was watching me. At night, I started hearing things, soft footsteps, faint whispers. They were always just outside the room, just out of sight. I tried to convince myself it was the house settling or the wind, but deep down, I knew it was the mirror. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard the whisper again, louder this time. It was clearer, almost like someone was speaking directly into my ear. I shot up, my heart pounding, and there in the doorway I saw it. A figure standing in the shadows, barely visible but unmistakable. It was me, or at least it looked like me. The figure grinned that same unnerving smile, watching me from the doorway. I blinked and it was gone. My heart was racing so fast I could barely breathe. I jumped out of bed and ran to the living room, determined to confront the mirror, to smash it, to end this once and for all. But when I got there, I couldn't move. The mirror loomed before me, dark and ominous, and I felt something pulling me toward it. My reflection appeared again, but this time it wasn't smiling. It looked at me with an expression of pure malice. My body felt heavy, as if something was taking control. My reflection moved, and I moved with it, against my will. I watched in horror as I raised my own hand, pressing it against the cold glass. The surface rippled like water, and my hand began to sink into it. I tried to pull away, but it was too late. The mirror had me. My reflection smiled again, and this time I knew whatever was on the other side had taken me. I don't know how long it's been since that night. Days, weeks, maybe longer. I can still see my house, my room, my life, but I'm not a part of it anymore. I'm trapped, watching from the other side of the mirror. It's cold here, dark. I can feel the weight of the glass pressing against me, like an invisible barrier I can't break through. My body moves without me now, going through the motions of my life, but I'm not in control. I've watched my reflection take over my life. It smiles, laughs, interacts with people, everything I used to do. But it's not me. I'm just a shadow, trapped behind the glass, watching. Sometimes I try to scream, to reach out, but no one can hear me. My voice doesn't carry through the mirror. I'm a prisoner in my own home, locked away in a world of reflections. I don't know what the thing in the mirror wants, but I know it's not done with me. I can feel it growing stronger, feeding off the life it's stolen from me. And the worst part? I don't think it's going to stop with me. I've seen it watching others, friends, family, anyone who comes near the mirror. It's waiting, biding its time, ready to claim more. If you're hearing this, maybe it's already too late for me. But if you ever find yourself standing in front of a mirror that feels wrong, walk away. Don't let it pull you in. Because once it has you, there's no escaping. I'm living proof, if you can even call this living. Now I'm just a reflection, a shadow forever trapped in the haunted mirror.
The story may have ended, but nightmares have a way of clinging to you, following you into the dark. Tonight, when the shadows lengthen and you feel that creeping dread, remember, some nightmares don't end when you wake up. If this story left you uneasy and you crave more terror, hit the like and subscribe button. The real nightmare is only just beginning.